just rip the lid right off because we've got the Big Ten title game rematch from last season. Oregon Ducks heading to the East Coast to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions in what is going to be an awesome game in an awesome environment. It's great that Penn State gets their night game whiteout in a big-time matchup. Everything is just setting us up for a fantastic game here between these two teams. Now, the stories of the season for both of these programs couldn't have been more different through the first month. For Oregon, it has just been utter domination on the football field with no regard for human life. Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, outscoring them by a combined 203 points to just 37. It has been foot on the gas, driving 95 miles down the highway like your Lanning, like your Kirby Smart's players. Dante Moore has looked more than comfortable as the team's starting quarterback in his first month there, working with Will Stein, the talented offensive coordinator, completing 75% of his passes, almost at 1,000 yards already, 11 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Out wide, DeCorian Moore has looked the part of a 5-star true freshman, 12 grabs, 207 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, there's been parts of Oregon that haven't looked great at times, run defense primarily. Everything else has just been like, holy shit, man. And it's so interesting because last season, they were the team that was slow to start the year. They barely get by, I believe, Idaho. Boise State took them to the wire. It was a slow roller. It's been the exact opposite this season. Now for Penn State's done the Oregon model. Now they haven't come close to losing their games, but they've just been easing into things to start the season. People have been trying to call out the Penn State offense for looking sloppy at times or disjointed or not as potent and explosive as you would think they'd be. But when I look at what Penn State's doing, I think they're just not really opening up everything just yet. And even then, without opening up the playbook, without showing everybody, film to study for, they've gone past Nevada, FIU, and Villanova by a combined score of 132-17. So for a team that just didn't want to unload the clip through the first 3 weeks, it's not like they were close to any upsets. They've been blowing past lower level competition as they should, getting through their inferior opponents because you've got this granddaddy of a matchup 1 month into the season, and this is what everything has been building for. And we'll talk about that in a second. The infusion of the wide receiver position has been the important thing to watch at Penn State. They obviously go heavy in the transfer portal. Trevor Pena, Kyron Ware-Hudson have been the two guys to really take charge through the first few weeks. Each have 150 or more receiving yards on the season. Devontae Ross, meanwhile, I believe he's the transfer from Troy. Pena, Syracuse. Hudson, USC. I believe Ross is the Troy guy. He's been kind of the vertical threat, taking the top off the defense, averaging 15.5 yards per reception. Now, that's great to do against the G5s and the FCSs of the world. You are going to go up against one of the better secondaries in college football. So, how will it look? We've spent all offseason saying, we just need to get Drew Aller wide receivers, and then he can be the quarterback he's destined to be. You got the receivers now, and you look good against lesser competition. This is it. And that's the matchup to watch in this game. I think most people want to point to the Penn State run game. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, a good offensive line for Penn State going up against an Oregon run defense that has been shaky. It's been the one weak point of Oregon so far, their inability to stop the run. That could very well be the biggest factor in deciding this outcome. However, when these two teams faced in the Big Ten title game, Penn State ran the football for 300 yards, and they still couldn't win the game. That's why I'm looking at you, Mr. Drew Aller. This has to be your masterpiece. This has to be your arrival. This has to be what everyone wants to believe you to be, or what the doubters don't want you to be. This has to be your game. Because last year, when you played against Power 4 teams that made the college football playoffs, or teams that you played in the college football playoffs, you did not look good. 55% completion rate, 158 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That was how you face, I think it was against Oregon, against Ohio State, SMU, and Notre Dame. It was those 4 games. Those were your numbers. Completed 55% of your passes, just 158 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. Penn State has done everything to build up Drew Aller these last couple of years. 2 off seasons ago, it was bringing in Andy Kotelnicki, one of the best play callers in this game. I cannot wait to see how they call this game against Oregon. So you already bring him in, and then you add 3 very talented wide receivers in the transfer portal, like we mentioned this past offseason, in Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross. I knew I was going to get it at some point. You bring in Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross. So much investment into making life easy for you. You already had the great run game. You already had the offensive line. We want to elevate you as a passer. So we're going to bring in a really great offensive coordinator, one of the best play designers in the sport, and then we're also going to give you 3 really talented wide receivers. This is your game. You have to show up here. The Ducks have another talented secondary. But they also, at the same time, haven't had to match up with a quarterback like you or a wide receiver room like you this season. Like I said, it's been Montana State, Oregon State, Northwestern, and Oklahoma State. That's not Penn State's offense right there. So this is going to be a test for them. This is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I'm not saying that you have to abandon the run game in this and chuck the ball down the field 55 times, but when it's time for Drew Aller to deliver, you need to deliver. This is it. This is the moment. This is what your career has been building up for. And that's because, when we talk about the numbers that stick out in this game, James Franklin is still 4-20, nice, against top 10 teams as the head coach of Penn State. And how about this number from last year's Big Ten title game? The Nittany Lions had 518 yards of total offense, the most Oregon allowed all season. Yet they never led in the game for a second. This is just, it's almost like empty calories at Penn State. I feel so good about them every week, every game, every season we head into. But numbers like that, where you can put up 500 yards on a team and never lead once, it's empty calories. So we all know that about Penn State and James Franklin. Meanwhile, the Ducks, they're just 11-5 against the spread in road games versus ranked opponents dating back to 2014. Now, however, Dan Lanning is just 2-4 against top 10 teams, but both of those wins came last season against Ohio State and Penn State. So he started 0-4 against the top 10. Oregon started to get things rolling a bit, and he picked up 2 massive top 10 victories last year within the Big Ten Conference. So those are the numbers that really stick out for this game. Let's land the plane on it. Penn State, 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 52.5. It's as simple as this. Penn State cannot lose this game. They cannot lose this football game. You are what I believe to be the most talented roster in the sport. You have the experience edge at just about every major position in this game. You also get a raucous home environment, getting to play your long-awaited whiteout game against a big-time opponent at night in Happy Valley. You're also getting a young team. As I mentioned, you've got the experience edge. You have a young team traveling all the way across the country for their first true road environment, tough crowd of the season. You have also been building the last few years for this 2025 season. You got so many key players to come back and put all the chips in to get over the hump, to get to a national title, to get through the regular season, to win the Big Ten. You cannot lose this game. And because of that, I think the Penn State offense is going to open up unlike anything we've seen through the first month of the regular season. I think they refuse to let up, push the pedal to the max for 60 minutes, and I think they are going to breeze past the Ducks in what I think will be a really good learning experience for a young Dan Lanning team to learn 5 weeks into the season. This team isn't going anywhere. Oregon's going to still be within the Big Ten title conversation, within the playoff conversation by the end of the regular season. But they're a young team right now, and I think this will be a really good learning experience for them. Give me Penn State and Penn State big. I'm going final score 38-17. Statement win of James Franklin's career, and the first moment where we all just wake up and realize that Penn State is who we think they're going to be this season. Give me Penn State. Give me them big. It's going to be a rout. It's going to be a raucous environment. You're going to have a young Oregon team that struggles to get up for the big moment. They'll learn from their lumps. They'll be great by the end of the regular season. This game here, it's all about Penn State.